go ahead and get started. I want to welcome everybody for today's investor briefing. Maxwell Biosciences has developed an AI-driven drug discovery platform. It creates synthetic small molecules that are designed to mimic LL37, which is the human immune system's primary antimicrobial peptide. And unlike traditional antibiotics, Maxwell's Claromers are broadly effective against nearly all tested bacterial and fungal pathogens, including drug-resistant strains and biofilms, without inducing resistance. Maxwell platform is supported by over $65 million in non-dilutive government grants and investor financing, more than 250 peer-reviewed scientific publications, 7 U.S. military collaborative research and development agreements, CRADAs, and their lead clinical program is targeting chronic rhinosinusitis, CRS, with phase 1 clinical trials anticipated this year. There's a lot of differentiation with Maxwell. We've been privileged to work with Maxwell, with Scott McClure and his team now for several years, and we have seen their progress and is nothing short of incredible. With that, I'd love to turn things over to Scott McClure, the CEO, and let him take it away. We'll also be doing a confidential investor poll when Scott is done with his presentation prior to starting Q&A. And for those of you who have questions, there's a few ways we can do it. You can put your questions directly into the chat box, or you can private message myself or Emily or Avery, or you can wait until Q&A and then raise your hand and we can call on you. But thank you again for joining us, and I'll turn things over to Scott McClure. Scott, welcome.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Tien. It's always an honor to be here. We have a deep dive that is happening tomorrow, so I hope you have some time on your schedule to join us there. We've got a lot of exciting stuff for you today. Maxwell Biosciences has a vision to create health for the world safely and affordably. It's a 10-year-old company. We are starting commercialization now, so moving into many different markets. And it's based on an artificial intelligence plus a deep tech breakthrough. So both of those different technology worlds coming together into one thing to create a successful mimicry of the human innate immune system. So the human innate immune system is effective against all known pathogens, obviously. That's how we keep ourselves from getting sick, right? And so wouldn't it be great if artificial intelligence would allow us to mimic that system? And it has. And that's leading us to a revolution in public health within the pharmaceutical space. The goal here is only one drug needed to cure almost any infection. And so a combination of two of our molecules, one effective against all bacteria and fungal infections, and the other to cure almost all viruses. Together in one medicine, you wouldn't need a diagnostic. So you'd be able to take this medicine, and if you're feeling sick, it would probably take care of just about anything out there. And we're going to go into detail in just a second about the efficacy against all the different pathogens that the military and NIH and others have tested for us. The goal is to bring down the cost of care to essentially a trivial level. This is the wholesale price of what a hospital charges to sell into from the hospital pharmacy for $1 per patient per day. And that comes with government subsidies and such. And we're targeting that cost globally. And we're already working with UAE, Thailand, India, and other countries to put that in place. This needs to be updated. We've got over 64 million in investment, government grants, and multiple US military contracts. We've got an AI platform and developing a AI device we'll talk a little bit about if we have time. And we've got a successful non-human primate study that shows it works. So one compound able to destroy both fungus and bacteria. You've probably never seen a biotechnology company prior to going into the FDA that has over 500 peer-reviewed publications on our drugs. So you can, in diligence, you can click on this link right here. We'll send you the deck. You can click on that and go look at these incredible publications that come from Stanford and Texas A&M, Baylor College of Medicine, the NIH, Department of Energy, the Department of Defense, now called the Department of War, Karolinska Institute of Technology, University of Louisville, University of British Columbia, many, many others. So we could have like 10 more slides of institutions on here. One of the ones I'd like to highlight is the Indian Council of Medical Research that did our non-human primate studies, and then the fungal work associated with cancer patients, the Baylor College of Medicine here. Really interesting work that they've done. In short, what this means is we have scientific consensus. This does work. These institutions have done your scientific and medical due diligence for you in animals and in the lab. So scientifically, we know it works. So the only risk that we have here, there's two kinds of risks that we have, which are regulatory and commercial. And so we're already moving into commercialization. There's very low risk there. We've got our head of R&D who has commercialized multiple different drugs coming to our deep dive tomorrow. We've got our chief medical officer coming to the deep dive tomorrow. Good time to talk with them about any regulatory risks or what are the chances of this making it through the FDA. So let's talk about the non-human primate study. We've got safety and efficacy here in both bacteria and fungi with a single molecule. So first time globally this has ever happened in the history of the world. And so in one arm you have 12 monkeys, the other you have 12 monkeys. These are rhesus macaque monkeys, about 50-pound, very strong animals. So they had to be sedated. Then once they were sedated, we took a baseline microbiome by putting a nasal swab up into the back of their nose, very similar to what happened to all of us during COVID. And so we got a sample of their microbiome before they were infected. So this is just their normal microbiome. Then we infected with bacteria and another arm with fungi, waited, allowed it to set in there, and they got sick. And then we treated with MXB 22510, one of our compounds, and they were cured in 3 days. No side effects, no toxicity, and we preserved the microbiome. This is the official letter saying that we had those great results. Note that I said we preserved the microbiome, so that's unlike any other antibiotic. We've got a long list of pedigreed investors, a lot of them from Opus 8. We met David Shaw at Opus 8. He invested $1 million. He's one of the former partners at Vinrock. And then we've got a bunch of other billionaires and super angels, as well as venture capital funds and large angel groups that have also invested. We just closed a $20 million round. We now have 7 CRADA agreements with the U.S. military, leading hopefully later to really big money. We've got some big deals happening with India. I'll go into detail later. And we all know that infectious disease remains a pervasive health crisis. Obviously, COVID was horrible. That's over now. But what is the next pandemic? We know that pandemics are emerging faster than ever. And so we want to be prepared ahead of time this time with a broad spectrum therapeutic. That means you don't have to get a vaccine. We want to have a therapeutic that's effective against all viruses, all bacteria, and all fungi that'll knock out anything. So why is that? Why is it that all of these things are happening? Old tech failed to solve infections. Viruses evolve faster than vaccines. Bacteria are evolving much, much faster than we can come out with new antibiotics. And there has never been anything good for antifungals. In fact, all existing antifungals today are highly toxic and lethal. Same exact drug as chemotherapy. So you certainly don't want that in your brain, your nervous system, your gastrointestinal system. It kills human tissues. So uh, it's just not a good world right now from anti-infectives side, and that's what we target. We are mimicking the human innate immune system peptide LL37. So this guy right here looks exactly like that, is inside of you. In fact, all of your cells inside of your body are producing this molecule. It's a peptide called LL37, and it's what keeps your entire body antiseptic. So it's making sure that the viruses, the bacteria, and the fungi and the biofilms are all being kept at bay. And over time, it fails. It generally takes about 70, 80, 90 years for that to fail. It gets overwhelmed somehow, and that's generally what leads to death. So we believe that this can also have some anti-aging properties and longevity properties because of that. So It's antifungal, antiviral, antibacterial, anti-aging, anti-inflammatory, and key to damage repair. It recruits stem cells inside the body. So that is your natural peptide. It does all of those things for you. LL37, you can Google it. You can ask ChatGPT. Really interesting peptide. So that's essentially nature's key to Healthspan. So wouldn't it be cool if we could copy that? Now, why do we need AI and deep tech and all of that to copy this thing? Why don't we just use that same peptide that's inside your body and just create a exact replica of that peptide? Well, it's because LL37 is a very fragile peptide. Peptides are inherently unstable. They break down inside the body, so we can't use that natural peptide. Now, what is the weakness with bacterial enzymes that cause these peptides to break down? It's the carbon bond right here that causes everything, it causes the weakness in that peptide, allowing the bacterial enzymes to destroy it. So the carbon bond is the problem. Can we replace that carbon bond? Maybe if we substitute nitrogen for the carbon, maybe we can move these over here to the nitrogen and maybe that'll work. And well, it turns out that it did work. And that was about 15 years ago when that initial work was done. I bought the patents personally about 10 years ago and assigned them to Maxwell Biosciences, and we created this company. So the nitrogen balance solves the stability problem perfectly, and we've got 6 granted patents and about 57 patents pending globally. They're composition of matter patents with 2030 to 2040 expiration windows. We also have a QDIP likely coming to us, which gives us 12 years of exclusivity beyond the patent. So that's an FDA and congressionally mandated program called Qualified Infectious Disease Products Program, or QDIP. Uh, Fast Track comes with that, which speeds the molecule through the FDA approval process. So we've got a lot of really good things going for us that almost no biotechnology company has. This is the technology platform. We call it the Claromer platform. We're able to mimic multiple different types of peptides. So it's incredible. Over 10,000 peptides can be mimicked. We're starting obviously with LL37, the human body's own, we call it the technology of the human body, the key to human health. And that will be mimicked in a stable Claromer family drug platform. This Claromer MXP 24656 is our most broad spectrum against all viruses, as you can see here. And we've got MXB 22510, which is most broad spectrum against bacteria and fungi. They're both very, very safe compounds. And what's really interesting is that we've shown MXB 22510 has no adverse effect on the microbiome at all, both in the sinuses as well as human colon and in other microbiome tests. So we've got an AI-driven drug discovery platform. I'm going to breeze through this. It's essentially a biomimetic machine learning model. It gives us the ability to determine whether or not one of these new molecules coming out of our system is toxic or not with 90% accuracy. We've got a strategic focus on completely unmet medical needs. So no competition in the markets that we're going into. We directly target those infections, and we do it with a nasal spray. As you can see here, we're targeting a $6 billion per year revenue target with chronic sinusitis. Probably everybody knows somebody who has chronic sinusitis, or maybe you suffer from it. I used to suffer from it. We're also targeting post-viral syndrome and brain fungal infections. We've got multiple contracts with the US military, so we're going down the biodefense side, and then we're also looking to replace the entire antibiotic industry in partnership with the country of India. We also are targeting healthy aging as kind of a side target. We're in commercialization now. I'll talk about all these areas that we're commercializing right now. We're already taking in millions of dollars from the US military. We're doing really great there. We've got a lot of agreements signed with them. These are some of them. So antiviral therapeutic development, threat agnostic prophylactic system, pathogen agnostic Claromer prophylactic to prevent infection in battlefield wounds. All of these are signed agreements and a high throughput antibacterial screening. So this one is the only one that does not offer potential revenue down the line. That they're just literally testing against hundreds of pathogens every time they test. And so far, we're effective against everything they've tested against. Both of these have potential revenue. We are effective against all dengue viruses, and we should be completely effective against all diarrheas, all pathogens that cause diarrhea. So they're testing against that right now. We know we're effective already against E. coli and several of these others. But this is signed and ongoing research. This one is pending. It's been pending for a long time. Looking forward to this one moving forward. This is their antivirals division at the Walter Reed Army Institute of Research. And then we also have the U.S. Army Institute of Surgical Research that's working on our on the sort of primary scientific aspects of our Claromers to see if they can use it in surgery. We also have a wonderful partnership with India, working on rare and neglected tropical diseases, neonatal sepsis, brain fungal infections, and antibiotic-resistant sinus infections. Really interesting details on this in the deep dive. This is the general size of the deal, could be somewhere around 300 million. We expect to close that within the next couple of months. We're also working with the National Institute of Animal Biotechnology in India in collaboration with the government of the United Arab Emirates. We have an agreement signed with them for to do this to start the testing. They've already started the testing. We have some really great data coming in from them now. We've already tested in the worst form of brucella, two of the worst forms, and that's been a success. They have identified 3 camels now that we can test in, and we're moving forward with that. We've got an anti-aging cosmetics agreement. We signed a contract with one of these, one of the biggest companies in the world within this space. We can't say which one until you've got some serious confidentiality agreements in place with us. But they've already shown it's got animal cruelty-free, kills all known pathogenic bacteria, and it preserves the skin microbiome. We've got a term sheet in place, not just a contract, but a term sheet in place with one of these guys. They've shown it's effective and stable in all pHs, effective and stable in hard and soft water, and highly scalable. They plan to scale it to 20,000 metric tons and do water treatment testing and as well as industrial kitchen and like chicken cleaning so that you don't have to have bleach in your chicken anymore when you eat it. So this will all be very safe for the microbiome as well. We've got an incredible team. This is the pharmaceutical development team here, Dr. Rudnick, Dr. Burnside, and Dr. Tracy. This is the former Shire Pharmaceuticals blockbuster R&D leadership team that invented and commercialized Adderall XR and Claritin. They also brought Carbatrol and Equitro to market. These are all multi-billion-dollar drugs. So when they started with Shire, it was a 10 pence per share company. And these drugs that they invented helped it to be acquired for $64 billion. So we have the same team that has been absolutely legendary in creating many dozens of billions of dollars in value. Safety and efficacy, this is how our drugs work. They target the membrane of viruses, not the protein. So these spike proteins here, you probably heard enough of that to last you for your whole life. Viruses evolve those, as we all know now. They do not evolve their membranes. Those membranes come from the host cell, and that's what we target. And so they cannot evolve that. It is a stationary, very easy to hit target for us, and we are able to hit it without fail over and over again. And this is electron microscope photographs showing us doing that. We're able to directly kill the viruses by dropping our compounds on the virus, and it literally just blows up, as you can see here. It doesn't require any interaction with the human body. It literally just interacts directly with the pathogen and rips it to pieces. Same thing in bacteria. It goes inside of the bacteria and gums everything up on the inside. It doesn't allow anything out of the bacteria, so the bacteria is not able to communicate resistance information to any of its surrounding family members. So it's a silent death for them. This is really interesting. This is a super exciting day for the company where we showed that we're effective against Ebola. The US AMRID, United States Army Medical Research Institute of Infectious Disease, got very interested, and this has led to our first contract with the Pentagon after the National Institute of Allergy Infectious Disease at the Rocky Mountain Lab funded and performed this research and showed we are effective against Ebola. So we're in talks with governments in Africa right now to move forward with testing in humans. So that should be quite interesting. Every strain of Ebola is worth about $1 billion. We show no resistance in highly resistant bacterial strains. That's always the first question investors have is there any chance that bacteria could form resistance? Yes, there's always a chance bacteria could form a resistance to anything. However, they have had 100 million years to form resistance to our innate immune system, and that's what we're using. We're using a mimic of the innate immune system to target them, and we don't believe that there'll be a chance that they'll evolve resistance. We're safe and effective against fungi, all tested so far. Well tolerated with no neuron toxicity in animal models. These are three compounds here. They were injected into the tail vein in rats. We showed no toxicity whatsoever in the neurons in the rats. Same thing here. We injected the drug MXB 22600 and MXB 22510 into mouse brains while they were alive, and no harm at all to the mouse whatsoever. The mice were completely healthy and were functioning just like the control mice that had no drug injected into their brain. Zero inflammation in animal models. We actually had to write something here because there's literally nothing here to show you because there's no inflammation. These are the control substances we used here, and so you can show that the test actually did work. We had an independent investment bank come in and evaluate the company, and their result came out to $331 billion by 2038. And so this is kind of like what the growth curve looks like according to their valuation. It doesn't seem real, does it? Like, how can that possibly be? Well, if you think, okay, we're replacing industries and this independent investment bank, they don't do any other business with us. We paid them to do an independent analysis, and then we have a private equity investor that didn't believe it and had his own people, his own analysts, do a fairness evaluation. That is also available for you to look at in due diligence, as well as the independent model that this investment bank did as well. So, very, very high return on investment possible. This is what the investment looks like over time as we invest into R&D and commercialize. A lot of different targets we can go after. This is just a very few of them, just a handful. We have a deep dive tomorrow, February 18th at 1 p.m. Eastern. We are offering a $282 million valuation cap. So compare that to the hundreds of billions of dollars that it could potentially reach by 2038. We have multiple exit opportunities coming up in the next 2 to 3 years. So you don't have to wait till 2038. Now, would I sell a lot of stock right away? No. In fact, I'm the number one stockholder in the company. I've been investing for 10 years in this company. I wouldn't continue to invest unless I truly believed this is the biggest thing. I have sold my Nvidia stock. I've sold gold. I've sold everything in order to invest in this company because the projected ROI is like nothing I know of in the stock market. So really looking forward to sharing our story with you, answering your questions. And we've got our team here as well to answer questions in the short period that we have.
Great. Thank you so much, Scotch. And for those of you on the call, if you have any questions, feel free to either put them into the chat box or direct message myself or Avery or Emily, or you can raise your hand. We do have a question regarding valuation. How has the valuation evolved over the last few years? And while you're answering, Scotch, we'll put up our first and only poll, which will be confidential, and it's for investors who may have an interest level in going forward here.
Sure. 10 years ago, we had a $6 million valuation, and we have grown over that 10 years all the way up to our last round that we just closed was a $94 million valuation. That was prior to the non-human primate study. So the non-human primate study showed both safety and efficacy in a size, in a population size that is similar to an FDA phase 2 trial. So remember, FDA phase 2 shows both safety and efficacy, and that's what we showed in the non-human primate study with the government of India providing the entire services, right? Like so they got the monkeys all together, they injected the monkeys, they tested the monkeys, they did all of those things. We visited their lab while they were doing that, but we didn't have any hands-on. We just shipped them the drugs. So we believe that a lot of the risk has been mitigated. There's no need to interact with the host biology at all. We're literally just dropping the drugs with a nasal spray into the sinus cavity of the monkey and targeting, just destroying the pathogens directly inside of the nasal cavity. Same thing that we would be doing in phase one and phase two and in phase three of our FDA study. So we think we've mitigated the risks pretty much completely. If you have more questions on the regulatory side or the medical side, we have our Chief Medical Officer, Tony Verco, here. Dr. Verco is available to answer questions in the medical side. And then we also have Dr. Edward Rudnick, who is the inventor of Claritin and Adderall. Pretty much an honor to get to talk to that guy too. He's famous, but also he knows everything about how we're moving forward with our regulatory program.
Wondering if I should unmute and ask my questions.
Go ahead, Mary.
Okay. Um, I know the potential exit valuation is 380 billion, but can you speak to kind of what the current valuation is for Maxwell? I think it's probably around 8 billion from something that I saw before.
Yeah,
Can
so
you
so
talk
that
to
same
that?
independent investment bank and the private equity firm that did the fairness evaluation on the independent investment bank's model, right? So they both came to the same conclusion. So one came to the conclusion of 7 billion, and the other one came to a valuation of 6 to 8 billion, because they're estimating that we will be in the hundreds of billions of dollar valuation within the next few years. So with a discounted cash flows model, they came to based on discounting the cash flows based on any risk associated. They came to a multi-billion dollar valuation right now for the company. So we're offering a $282 million valuation. And we also, as you'll learn in the upcoming deep dive tomorrow, we have a term sheet already from a European pharmaceuticals company that will be closing anytime now. So we've got a 2-hour meeting with them on the 23rd to go over the details of the payment terms in the partnership for a throat spray that they will be distributing throughout Europe. What's interesting about that deal is that in Europe they have something called a medical device class 2A, which does not have to go through human trials. So if it is a swish and spit thing, so like they call it a medical device class 2A. It doesn't have to go through human trials. So it's a throat spray that you spray into your mouth, swish it around, and you spit it out. So they don't think of it as actually going into the body. It's more like washing your hands with soap or something. So that doesn't exist in the United States. But what's interesting is because the EU has that, almost all of the rest of the world then will allow that product to be sold in a clinical environment or in a non-clinical environment like a pharmacy. We have a marketing plan. It's called Train the Patient, which we'll be stocking it in dentists' offices and in ear, nose, and throat doctors' offices, where the nurses will actually be training the patient on how to spray it because it's a new, novel product. And so we think that this will help us get the word out and provide a faster increase in sales for us as the doctors are training their patients on this new and novel technology that is effective against all pathogens, not just bacteria.
Yeah, I can imagine that would be really impactful for like cancer patients that sometimes have immune system compromised, and so they have
That's
bacterial and
right. Yep.
fungal infections in the oral
Yeah,
pathway.
anyone with a compromised immune system, often what causes the most damage in those patients is fungal overgrowth. So it's called thrush. You see it in infants. So infants often have thrush, and you take the baby for your wellness evaluation. They look at the tongue. It's one of the things that everyone should do for their own hygiene. Check the tongue to make sure it's not white, right?
Mm.
Because especially if you drink a lot of beer or drink a lot of bread, there's a lot of baker's yeast in those things, and if your immune system is being depleted, you'll see that your tongue starts turning white. And so you got to be really careful about that. So right now, there's not really a lot you can do to fight thrush because there's not a lot of safe antifungals. It's basically grandma medicine that will allow you to fight it, like apple cider vinegar and other things that will allow you to fight thrush. Very soon there'll be a throat spray that you can use that'll target thrush and many other pathogens that currently have nothing for them.
I think there were a few questions similar to mine about potential exit strategies, liquidity, timing, what that might look like. If there's lots of things happening, so maybe talk about, easy to put money in, how might it
Yeah.
come back?
Oh yeah, super easy. So we have it's a convertible note. It's not a round closing or anything like that. It doesn't take weeks or months. Uh, you'll get your investment documents pretty much right away. The money gets into the bank and we'll sign off on the documents, and then you'll get a login to our investor system. It's called Carta, where you can track your investments in our company and many other companies. Uh, and uh, and there's another question here about where the valuation estimates come from in the model. You can dig into that in diligence. We have a full data room there, but I'll touch on it here. It's about profits and cash flows, right? So what the model does is estimates costs versus revenue, shows the EBITDA on those years very conservatively estimates that. So basically they just slowed everything down because the numbers get so big when you're replacing industries. This is one of the reasons why we're working with India. India, about a third of their gross domestic product comes from the production of generic antibiotics. So this is a big threat to their economy if this is successful. We identified that immediately and went out to India and said, hey, we want to help you. Antibiotics are failing all over the world. That means a third of your gross domestic product is at risk. That is, it's a failing product for your entire country. What if we could replace this for your entire country and you could have the intellectual property and produce that here? And so they got very interested in that. They did the non-human primate study for us. They paid for that and operated the entire study for us. We jumped in front of big pharmaceutical companies because they said this is a national priority for India. So we got to first place right away. They expedited the monkey trials for us. And then now they're talking about giving us a multi-hundred-million-dollar grant, and that is sponsored by one of their largest states, kind of the equivalent of Texas in the United States. It's called Andhra Pradesh, very similar to Texas with weather wise, and they also have a lot of pharmaceuticals in that state as well. So they've given us land and facilities and labs there, and now we're waiting on the money to come in from the federal government, and we should be closing on that very soon. Okay,
So
we
the
got
other,
another question here.
Yes.
What is the minimum amount
Yeah.
for investments? We generally say 50,000. It's a $20 million convertible note. If you're bringing other strategic value to the company, we can be flexible on that. Sarah Aubrey and Mira Sorodik, they came over, worked for the company from Keiretsu, but before they worked for the company, they were investors in the company, and they each invested $10,000 in the company because of their strategic value. We allowed them to do that. So if you're bringing investors with you, or you've got other reasons why you're a strategic add to the company, then we could allow you to invest less than 50K, but we generally don't allow that. It's generally the minimum is 50K.
I've added follow on, so I'm getting up there.
Yeah, yeah. Mira has invested multiple times afterwards. So, all right, let's see.
We have a question
Some other
about if there's
questions?
a generic manipulation on the horizon.
Though that's a any genetic manipulation on the
Oh,
horizon. I don't know
sorry.
what that means. So there is no gene therapy associated with this. Is one of the things that we like about it is there's no mRNA or anything like that here. It is just a small molecule that directly attacks the pathogen. We don't like mRNA technology, and then gene therapy can be quite risky because CRISPR technology is not specifically targeting areas. It's more like a shotgun technology, so it can be a little risky. This is kind of, it is sort of, in some ways, very simple technology where it doesn't have to interact with the host biology at all. It's just incredibly damaging to pathogens, and it doesn't touch the host microbiome. So it's very, very selective technology. Um, and we're leading the world in understanding how it works. But there's literally thousands of published articles on how this works because they're studying the innate immune system of the body, and that's what we're targeting. And that's why it's been it's been relatively advantageous for us to develop a mimic of such a well-studied biological process, the innate immune system. So it gives us a lot of hints as to how our drugs are going to work because we know how this peptide, this immune peptide LL37 works.
So there was a follow-on question about how spin-outs and exit opportunities will be presented.
Sure. So we're going to go into deep, deep detail on that in the deep dive tomorrow. But essentially, like for instance, I talked about Brucella in one of the slides there. I went through the slides so fast you might have missed it, but we're working with, remember the National Institute of Animal Biotechnology and the slide with the camels on it and the Arabs. They are very interested in protecting their camels from this deadly bacteria for which there is no cure. In fact, they isolate their $30 million racing camels prior to races because they're afraid that the camel is going to get infected by this bacteria, and no camels are allowed to race during that time if they're even exposed to this bacteria. They can't even if they're not proven to be infected, if they're just exposed, they're not allowed to race, which is how they make their money. So the brucella causes camels, livestock of all kinds, cattle, sheep, horses. It makes it so that they can't produce milk and they can't produce babies. And that is the cash crop of cattle. So it's a multi-billion dollar, huge economic impact all over the world. There's no cure for it. 60% of humans carry the bacteria. So just interaction with a human can infect an animal. And so it's a very dangerous thing for livestock ranchers and farmers and for the entire industry. And there is no vaccines for it that work very well. Antibiotics don't work on it. It's because Brucella infects the macrophage, similar to HIV and AIDS. And the antibiotics are not able to get inside of the macrophage and kill the bacteria inside the macrophage. So our compounds are able to do that. And so that was shown by the National Institute of Animal Biotechnology. Also, the University of Edinburgh showed that we were able to do that with another pathogenic bacteria as well. So it shows that our compounds are able to get into the macrophage. Now, we have not tested against HIV yet, but it would stand to reason that if we're able to get inside the macrophage and kill a pathogen, we might have an advantage in going after HIV that way as well. Very interesting stuff on the horizon, even on the early research side as we move forward into commercialization. So you can see why this company is really exciting and people are thinking in the hundreds of billions because we could just literally go after anything infectious. And this is, infectious disease is one of the main worries of everyone, of all of humanity. We could you could be talking with the team right here that takes away one of the main concerns of humanity. So it's really an exciting thing for us to work on. You can see why we have such an incredible cast of professionals here that are working on it and devoting our time to this.
There's a question that I'm not sure you touched on yet, Scotch, about drug delivery and the various forms of drug delivery, and if
So
there's an impact on performance for one versus
sure,
the other.
I'll let Dr. Rudnick address drug delivery.
Well, so our drugs are not absorbed orally, but are really quite amenable to a variety of other aspects. So first of all, for gut infections, it turns out that they will be particularly useful for um, things like traveler's diarrhea, some other pathogens in the gut, as well as potentially things like Crohn's and some other uh, applications. Think of a replacement for rifaximin. In terms of systemic infections, we've been able to test that the drug will go through various partitions and various parts of the body to go to infectious sites. One single dose of a subcutaneous injection, think of an Ozempic pen, will give you 2 weeks of um, therapeutic coverage, the entire course of therapy. So we expect that this will completely redefine the way anti-infective drugs are delivered to the patient. You won't have to go to a pharmacy and pick up something and take it, 2, 3, or 4 times a day. Right there in the doctor's office, they'd be able to administer a shot and we're done. And we think that we can incentivize the doctor and nurse to do that and actually enhance marketing. We also know that from a nasal spray and ocular drops that this will probably be very effective for a variety of infections. And we expect to develop it for all of those applications as well. We know that from a nasal spray that we get about 30% of the drug into the brain. And so we know that a nasal spray will probably be a good vehicle for brain fungal infections. We're also looking at a potential for inhalation therapy for lung infections, deep lung infections, and especially lung infections for AIDS patients and other cancer immunocompromised patients. Do you need any more detail on that, or?
There's a secondary question also, well, not secondary, but another question about India being a particularly price sensitive market and what the unit price will be in that market.
You want me to handle that?
Yeah,
All right,
sure, go ahead.
I'll go for it. So our goal is to massively scale up these compounds. If we're going to replace most antibiotics, antifungals, and antivirals, we need a large volume. The other thing that will help with the cost is that this is all of our compounds are incredibly effective at extremely low concentration, micrograms concentration. So, for example, Scotch talked about that non-human primate study. The dose, the daily dose for those animals, which was the human dose, was about 40 micrograms. That is 2 grains, 2 little granules of sugar. If you ever see sugar spilled on a table, take 2 granules, and that is the daily human dose. So extremely small amounts of drug compared to grams of antibiotics that are needed. And so we have 2 things going for us. Number one, we'll be scaling this up massively to the multiple metric ton size which is easy to do for drugs of this size and that are synthetic. And two, the dose that's needed is incredibly small. So we get a lot of doses in 1 kilo. And so we expect that the daily cost of that pen will be less than $1 a day.
Some thoughts on that, just from the economic side. The drug business is famously profitable. This because we use so little of our drug in production, and because the cost of our drug is so low because of the size that we'll be scaling it to, the profit margin is immense. So we can work with governments. We also plan to sort of cut out the middleman. We'll be working already, working on this, working with governments directly, having the governments pay and subsidize for the drug themselves. For instance, in India, there are no big pharmaceutical companies that are able to distribute out to the villages where we're targeting for neonatal sepsis. So it'll actually be the government that is distributing the drug for us. As we set up that relationship with the government, it's very nice because we don't have to share profits with a big pharmaceutical distributor. We just sell the drugs directly to the government, and then they do the distribution for us. So we're trying to cut out the middleman wherever possible to bring down the cost of the drug for the patient as much as possible. So we're really trying to replace all antibiotics, antifungals, and vaccines globally. And we believe that is very possible with this technology because the broad spectrum efficacy. I don't think anyone likes taking a vaccine. Everyone has different opinions on whether or not we should. But I think we all agree nobody likes it. Nobody enjoys it, right? And so what if we could replace that? And that's what the military is working on right now, is a broad spectrum therapeutic that'll make it so we don't have to do vaccines in the future, and we get rid of antibiotics as well. Any other questions? This has been a wonderful Q&A session. The questions have been really insightful, really good stuff. I want to remind you again, we've got a great deep dive coming up tomorrow. Special slides for you that'll go deep into the European pharmaceutical deal. We'll go deep into the camel and livestock deal, going into the company called Bruce that will be spinning out. We will also be digging a little bit into the first spin out that'll be coming out. We've already spun it out of Maxwell Biosciences. It's called SHU Technologies, which is SHU, SHU stands for Structured Heuristic Understanding. And we have a sovereign wealth fund that is about to invest in that spin out. And it's already making revenue, which will be supplying revenue to Maxwell Biosciences. We spun out an AI program that we had developed for drug discovery and for helping our employees be more productive. And we thought, hey, I bet somebody else would like to do this as well. And so we spun it out and open sourced it. And we'll be showing folks that as well. So it's already open sourced on GitHub. There's always a website for it, and there's a staff for it and everything. And we're hoping that our big VC will be investing in it very soon.
Actually, Scott, speaking of AI, I know that I think you come from a big data background, and here you are in biotech. Can you talk about like the origins of Maxwell, how it came to be, how you transitioned
Sure.
from your data life to pursuing Maxwell?
Sure. 10 years ago, before I had any gray in my beard, I was a CEO of a commercial real estate AI company called Real Massive, and we had a billionaire as our chairman. We were just we had Google as our partner. We were moving really, really fast, just absorbing so much data from commercial real estate, and then selling risk profiles and valuation profiles to the major owners of commercial real estate, which are insurance companies and large hedge funds and private equity firms, and those were our customers. So we were doing very, very well, as you can imagine, selling an information product that didn't cost us anything to produce. And so very profitable company. And uh, and about 3 years into that journey, both my dad and my daughter got very sick from drug-resistant pathogens, and they both went into the emergency room, went into the ICU at the same time. Uh, People had to suit all up to go see them because they had drug-resistant pathogens. And my dad was diagnosed with heart failure and due to a drug-resistant infection of the pericardium, which is the sort of the tissue bag around the heart. And my daughter was diagnosed with ulcerative colitis, and they were going to amputate her colon. So I took a leave of absence from my job as CEO, even though things were moving super, super fast. They needed me every time, like 24/7. I had to take a leave of absence and go try to save my dad's life and my daughter's colon. And so I was successful. I just went into, multiple all-nighters researching what are the alternative methods to treat infections. And I found multiple ancient recipes within Ayurvedic medicine and traditional Chinese medicine. And I put all of those together into one really nasty tasting milkshake, basically, and served it to them in the ICU, and they both got better right away. And I said, well, that's just strange. Like, how is it that civilizations thousands of years old have something that our Western medicine doesn't have? There's got to be something inside of the body because these are just herbs and things. What is it inside the body that cures these things? It's got to be upregulating some kind of gene or protein or something. And so I went back to my company after my daughter and my dad were out of the ICU, and I said, "Okay, I'm ready to come back. But what I would actually prefer to do is find somebody to sell my shares to, and I'd like to then go work on infectious disease and use AI tools to come up with new tools for doctors." And the billionaire who was the chairman of the company said, "Well, since you've been gone, I've been thinking, maybe." Maybe we could buy you out. And so he had a buyout package ready for me. It was like God was just working on both sides of that, and he bought me out just like that. So a week later, I was transitioning in a new CEO and had a very nice exit package that I funded the Maxwell company for the first 2 years of its existence, mapping out the proteins that exist inside the plasma, circulating around inside of the body, trying to see which one of them would do the best against pathogens. And so that's how we saw the statistical significance of LL37. I didn't discover LL37. We just saw the statistical significance of it. And then we started talking with professors that were experts in LL37. There are already over 1,000 publications on LL37 at the time. So there's a lot of information about it. And that's when we found the patents for the synthetic version, the mimic of LL37. And we bought those patents. Thankfully, I had time and money to buy the patents at the time. I have almost no personal money now because every time I get some, I invest it into Maxwell. So I wouldn't be able to buy any patents today. It was a totally different world for me back then. I had so much money in my personal bank account, and now it's all in Maxwell's bank account. So every time I get a chance, I buy shares in Maxwell. So let's get together in the deep dive, and I'll tell you why I made those decisions and why I'm about to get some liquidity, and the investors in the company are about to get some liquidity too. It's been 10 years, so it is ripe for the harvest, and now we're moving into commercialization, generating revenue, and we're going to start spinning out some exit opportunities with spin out companies.
Amazing, like divine intervention that you of all people would have family members impacted, and then you have been
Well, it's
so
never happened again
passionate.
either, right? So it was a really weird thing that happened when both my daughter and my dad goes into the ICU with a drug-resistant infection. What are the probabilities of this? It's like virtually it's impossible, right? And so then they go in, I leave and start an anti-infectives company, and then they never have an infection again. Right? So it's like, what? Like, that's so strange, right? I think the universe really is controlled by some higher authority of some kind, because it was really interesting to see that happen.
Yeah. And I know Ed joined the team a few years, kind of back, and obviously he's done some amazing things. I wonder if Ed can just share what he sees in Maxwell, why he is so committed to what Maxwell's doing after doing some huge things like Claritin and Adderall and all these other things. It's
Well,
amazing.
so the compounds here are very, very powerful. Number one, they're very effective at an extremely low concentration. And one compound is effective against a very broad spectrum of pathogens. There is no antibiotic that's good against really all gram positives and gram negatives. Some of the really newer generation cephalosporins come close, but nothing is anywhere as near as these compounds. And we have one product that we believe is effective against virtually all bacteria, with only one or two very minor exceptions. And another product that's effective against almost every enveloped virus, which are really all the pathogenic viruses, with almost no exceptions. So those two products cover the waterfront, if you will, for just about everything that might infect you. I think it's incredibly valuable for society in general to have access to these drugs.
And can you combine the one that's very effective against kind of bacterial and fungal with one that's very effective against viral? Like, can you put them together for a really broad spectrum? Is that even possible?
You mean like for one universal product? Well, that would require 4 compounds to be in one product. And FDA has something called the combination rule, which when you have 2 products is very doable. When you have 4, that will take a lot of it. So I won't say that we never do that, but certainly it's a lot more realistic to think of 2 products, one for every virus and one for every bacteria and fungi. But to tell you the truth, the one that's effective against bacteria and fungi is also effective against viruses, just not as broad a spectrum of them as the 2 that are really broad antivirals. And the antivirals are also effective against bacteria and fungi, just not as much as the other 2. So, they all have activity against viruses, bacteria, and fungi, and parasites, but just the differential is that if you're going to kind of market this to professionals, where this is kind of the universal solution for, a bacterial infection or a viral, and theoretically, you could administer the 2 products at the same time.
Right. Yeah. And I'm curious, your gut feel, do you think first in human is going to be like a soldier, like from a military perspective application, or someone in India?
Well, first in human is usually a safety trial, and that if we're if we're fortunate to get this Indian grant established quickly, it may actually be in India. But it's quite possible it'll be in the U.S. with normal volunteers, healthy volunteers.
No, we're at the end of the time. Thanks. Appreciate that.
Great. Well, this has been fantastic. Appreciate all your remarks, Scotch and Ed and team. And tomorrow at 1:00 Eastern, there's the deep dive, as been mentioned before. We'll follow up with a email with some additional information, including the link, as well as a link to the recording of today's call, which I hope you can share with your friends and co-investors. So with that, we'll go ahead and wrap, and hopefully we'll see most of you guys tomorrow. And thank you for participating and for answering the poll. Thank you,
All right.
guys.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thanks for your time.
everyone.